So right now we'll have a question and answer period. For those of you that maybe missed at the beginning, you can submit a question through the chat group, the chat box. You can submit a question there, or you can submit a question to directly to info@visafranchise.com. So I received 2 questions for Visa Franchise during the call. We can start off there, and then we'll go to any questions for Rich. So the first question was, you mentioned at the beginning, you work with over 80 plus franchises. Why did you want to show Office Pride today? So I would say this for a number of reasons. We wanted to highlight Office Pride. I guess for starters, we kind of view them as the gold standard for professionalism and what we expect out of the franchise businesses that we work with on behalf of our clients, and what our clients would like to expect from a franchise that they're investigating and potentially might invest in, that will enable them to move to the U.S. through an investor visa. So in addition to that, we really like the business model that they have. We say it's a low cost total investment that's very scalable, high margins, recurring revenue is a really important factor. We've seen a lot of the best franchises have that in common. That's a huge part of Office Pride. And obviously the management team is crucial. Hopefully you saw from listening to Rich today, the management team is very professional, years of experience. They're there to help their franchisees grow. That's what they're there for, and that's what a franchisor should be there for. And another factor for foreign national looking to invest, they're a franchise that's used to and has experience working with foreign nationals for their investor visas. Our clients have really liked that in the past. That they're accommodating of that. Not all franchises do that. So I'd say all those factors combined are the reasons why we wanted to highlight Office Pride today. And thank you again, Rich, for coming in, and thank you all for listening. And then the second question I had here was, what are the Visa franchise fees? So Visa Franchise, the way we work, separate from the cost of the franchise and the investment costs that would go to Office Pride, we charge a one-time upfront fee, and it really, in order to begin working with the client and helping them find the best franchise investment for them, and that happens at the very beginning of the search process. And if you have more questions on that, we can speak directly. You can send an email to info@visafranchise.com. So now, Rich, do you have any questions you'd like to go over that you received, or the ones that you've received in the past that you think are kind of important to go over?
Well, let me see. Maybe if we were to just kind of cover a little bit about the E2 process with us. Some of you might be thinking, how long does all that take? Typically what we're seeing is if a candidate engages with us today and we move through that process, again, at your pace, we've actually, I think the fastest we've done that was probably just under a month. And then at that month point, the candidate was ready to sign the agreement, pay the franchise fee, and then we were able to assist them with all of the other requirements for the E2 process. And that's the part, obviously, that Jack and Patrick and your immigration attorney would work with you on that. Again, we would work very closely with them to make sure we get all those fulfilled. And then that time frame there can vary, right? It'll depend on embassies and governments, but again, we stay close with you in that process until you're ready to actually get approved, relocate. We'll help and assist with, it might be areas to live, places to put your office, where the best markets might be. But I want to reiterate one thing. It is important for us as you come in to relocate to best ensure that there's success, that you come in with an area developers area. And I'll be able to get, if you engage with us, I'll be able to get you what those metros are, whether it be by city and state. I think that'll be helpful. What that does, again, it's one more layer. It's very local, face-to-face, aside from the support that we offer here. So hopefully that helps there a little bit.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point there, Rich. Thanks for going over like the length. And what we've seen as well, just to add on to that, is the length isn't really, the process isn't really held up at all on the Visa franchise side or the Office Pride side. It's typically the client is the one that dictates how fast or how slow the process moves. So if the client wants, if you as a foreign national investor want to go fast and do everything the right way, but go at a quick pace, and then a lot of times Office Pride is more than capable of meeting those timelines. So I received another question about regarding the L1 visa. Would Office Pride qualify for an L1 visa? And just for everyone else's knowledge listening, so there's three types of investor visas for the U.S. There's the E2, the L1, EB5. So L1 is one of those three. I would say today we haven't had an L1 investor look at doing investment in Office Pride become franchisee and have it qualify for the L1. We haven't had that yet. The L1 is, I must admit, is a little more complicated than the E2. E2 is very simple, straightforward, relatively easy. The L1, it takes into a few other factors to consider, including the business in the home country, because it's an executive transfer or manager of manager visas. So for that question to be really answered, it would be great to speak with your immigration attorney if you have one. A lot of factors must be considered. Another question we received: why franchises in general? Why do you like working with franchises? I'd say a whole host of reasons, particularly for a national that has been to the U.S. before, maybe has worked even a little bit, but it's a new market, a new place. It's extremely helpful and less risky to have a franchisor, professional franchisor with a proven business model within the U.S. market be there to support you as you're building up your business. That it needs to be successful in order to retain the investor visa. And that's a huge benefit, as opposed to doing it on your own and starting your own company or starting your own entrepreneurial venture. And we do have a number of clients that are big-time entrepreneurs, professionals in their home countries, but they come to the U.S. off of a franchise investment just to get their foothold in the U.S. And once they're established here, the family and living for a few years, and then maybe they want to do a side investment that's their own, that's a little more entrepreneurial. That's fine, but we see a lot of advantages, and our clients have it as well, that franchises offer foreign nationals. So that's it on my end. Rich, did you have any more questions that you received, or that anything else you want to go over before?
Yeah, there's one thing, probably the biggest maybe concern or question that we get often, especially with E2 because of the cultural changes, is, well, we get a ton of questions. They're usually more concerned about how they get started up. And I just wanted to reiterate about the process. As we go through this process, it's not a phone call or one quick video chat. Really, it's to help you make you feel comfortable by the time we do get to, let's say, coming to Discovery Day, that your eyes wide open, you know exactly what you're getting into. You'll know exactly what you're going to do day one, and as well as, because we don't take that transition lightly, right? It's, for people that live in the U.S., making that leap to a franchise is pretty big. So you've kind of doubled down, not only are you making a leap to get into a business, but you're doing it in a whole new culture. So, there's a lot of things on, I guess, maybe the fear side, which is where we get a lot of those questions. I just want to reassure you that we'll get all those answered as we move to Discovery Day, including Discovery Day, and again, take all the time that you need, because it's a big decision, and we want to make sure that everything is crystal clear for both of us.
Yeah, for sure, and that's a big part of, to add on to that, it's a very good point, Rich, and that's a big part of the reason why the whole, by Office Pride has that whole process that Rich went over in the beginning. It's to really make sure that the foreign national knows, or any sort of franchisee knows exactly what they're getting into before they invest, which is another benefit I forgot to mention earlier, is that it's not just some unknown investment. You as a potential franchisee, you'll have the time to talk to not just the franchisor, but also franchisees that are living the day-to-day, and you can see their feedback. You can hear the good, the bad, and the ugly, which is a huge advantage when doing a franchise. And we received another question. Where can I find an immigration attorney? So we work with a number of immigration attorneys. Sometimes, at Visa Franchise, our client will come to us with an immigration attorney already. Other times they want to find an immigration attorney, and we're happy to provide the contact of one or two, depending on where you live or your background, et cetera. So please feel free to send us an email, and we're happy to send you some contacts. Received another question here. Regarding the nature of the business in the home country for the L1 that allows to start a new business in the U.S. by the directors of the parent company. I believe the question is asking what kind of business the business needs to be involved in the home country in order to be eligible for the L1 within the U.S. A lot goes into that. Again, that's a very good question for immigration attorney. So for that particular individual, we're more than happy. If you're not talking to an immigration attorney, we're more than happy to send you the contact of one. They can go over the L1. It's not as simple as the E2 investor visa. Any other questions? Please feel free to submit them. Okay. Oh yeah, I can say it. So there's another question for Rich here. How many franchise? This is regarding the territory and how it's managed. So it's how many franchises do you sell per city or territory, and how is this all managed?
That's a good question. So we look at territory as market areas. So our market areas. So on the business model side, we wanted to do is we didn't want to limit a potential franchisee to grow. So we wanted to make that opportunity big. On the market side, the commercial cleaning market here is huge. As we go through the process, I'll be able to give you some perspective on other metros and how many franchises are there, population, business count, a lot of other factors. And the B2B arena or business to business here, the dynamics are a little bit different than something that's residential, consumer, or customer related like that. So you might have a bank that's got multiple locations. One might be real close to where you're operating. The others could be, half hour, 45 minutes, an hour away, maybe even further. So we don't want you to be able to limit from being able to take on accounts like that. You can bring on those accounts. So what we do is before we go into a market, we don't set a limit of how many franchises we'd put there. I think the 25 years of track record we've got on the lawsuit side will prove that we're going to do the right thing, but we want to have some flexibility there again to make sure the market's big enough, make sure that there's plenty of growth there, and as we go through the process with you, we'll give you some perspective on how big that commercial cleaning market really is and how that would work for you in a particular market area. Hope that helps.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that, Rich.
Another question about the success rate?
So then we have another question for Rich as well. What is the success rate for New Office Pride franchisees, particularly the ones joining in recent years? And I'll add on to that question. How do you guys go through your evaluation process on your end to make sure you only accept franchisees you think will have the most success?
Okay, that's two parts. So our success rate is disclosed in our FDD. So we talked about that franchise disclosure document. So we have to disclose that. It'll give you information about how many new franchisees came on, where they came on, and how many have left the system. I do know in our system, it's actually less than 10% overall. And franchisees exit the system for many reasons. In some cases, everybody comes into a business with the intentions to succeed, and so do we. So if we come back to the other part discussed here, which would be what do we look for, or kind of what qualifies a person, as we go through those 7 steps, it's pretty in depth. We look at things like just general. Well, in first case, on the E2 side, it's language. Yes, you have to be able to speak fluent English. You'll be interacting and working with customer development. Second, we look for strong, just general business acumen. It's not necessary that you had to have owned a business or operated one. It does help if you've managed people, whether it be 2 or 3 or 5 or 100. That definitely helps because that would translate over. So there's a lot of factors and there's a lot of things that we look at. And as we move through that process, we'll mutually know each step if it's a good fit for both of us. And that fit for us, again, there's things that we look for, which I kind of outlined a few of those. So did I answer both parts of the question? I'm not sure if you can hear me, but I lost audio.
Oh, sorry, that was my mistake here. So I was no, I muted it when you were answering. So
Okay.
I was just adding on to the fact that very interesting for our clients that have moved forward with Office Pride and end up investing. Part of the process they had to go through with Office Pride was they had to Office Pride looked at their personality and referenced it against the more successful Office Pride franchisees to see if they're a good fit. And I thought that was a really interesting way to look at new franchisees and to make sure that they fit what the best and most successful franchisees already have in common in the system. So
Right. That's called it's called a spot. It's a spot-on assessment that we do there. That's right.
Yeah, and not every franchise does that, but I think it's a great tool to make sure that people fit the system well.
Right.
So another question we had come in, and this is for you, Rich. It's what is the Office Pride's experience with the E2 visa process?
What's our experience with it? Right.
Yes.
Well, we've been working with E2 candidates for probably about a year and a half. And I mentioned early on, we have 5 E2 Visa franchisees. But I'll add to that because I know somebody's next question might be, hey, how's the franchisees doing that are E2? So we are in the process of getting the first one up and running. That would actually be relocating. So we're pretty close to that. So out of the 5, none are actually up and operating yet. Some have gone through training already. Others will be scheduling for training. So we've got a bunch that will be coming up here over the next 1 to 3 months.
Thank you, Rich. Any other questions coming in? So with that, it looks like we're all set on questions. If you guys have any other questions for Rich, please feel free. You can reach out to him. He put his contact information here, his cell phone and his email. I know he's extremely responsive and very professional. So feel free to reach out, and schedule a call or another online meeting directly with Rich. And with that, I want to thank everyone for joining today. I hope this is really informative for all of you individuals looking at doing an investor visa, either moving to the U.S. or those of you that are already living in the U.S. and want to do an investor visa. Hopefully this is a little eye-opening, and hopefully provide a lot of information for you to think about and consider. And again, obviously, Rich, thank you so much for your time and for joining today. And I thought that was very informative. So thank you again.
Cool. Yep. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you all. Take care.
All right. See ya.